Yeah, thank you. Genuinely,
I got something
thank you.
for you.
Oh, shoot.
Kind of a silly
I'm not
thing,
sure.
but this is an action figure of myself.
Oh my God. Hey, listen, I'm going to put this. I don't have an action figure.
No way.
I have
really?
I have a silly, goofy figure, but not action. No
Oh,
one hires me ever to be active. Did you have to train? Thank you for my gift.
yes.
I'm looking at actually pretty well done, at least the graphic on the cover.
Not too bad. That's a character.
Randall from WandaVision.
That's right. And
Jimmy Woo.
Jimmy Woo. The story behind that was it came out and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it. I have an action figure. And I was so happy because,
Is this Marvel or DC?
Marvel. That's Marvel. And then, I bought one. And then one day I was at...
Did you really only buy one?
I bought one. Well, this is the story. I bought one.
Oh.
And then months later, I was at a Best Buy and I see hundreds of myself on clearance sale.
Oh, no.
And I was like, oh, no. No one's buying these. So then I decided to buy 50 of them.
That's great and so wonderfully human that they're not rejecting you, but they are rejecting your little fake figurine here.
The people are rejecting me. So I had to kind of help myself a little bit. And so I have about like 30 of them now. And I want to give you one. 29.
29
right.
now.
Well, I've given away like 20 at this point.
Seriously, I think that we should only have guests from now on who will give us action figures. So this is...
I'm really just
Park.
unloading them. Really,
Yeah.
I have too many, and I got. But that's for you.
Actually, I appreciate this. Thank you, because I do have one. I think it's a bobblehead from The Good Place and Mr. Mayor. But yeah,
were there any? Because Cheers was so big, I'd assume there was like some kind of merchandising going on.
Yeah, but mostly T-shirts and mugs and things like that. It was pretty cool dolls.
Yeah.
So what can I quickly, we're jumping around, but Marvel, what is that? Is that like Scientology? Once you're in, you don't get out? What are those? None of my business, not financially, but is there a commitment to be available to do the next Marvel that needs your character?
Not really. I mean, I'm sure it's different for different people. But if I was like a superhero, I think it would probably look a little different. But because I'm a civilian, it's kind of I'll get an inkling beforehand if they're thinking of me for something, and they'll reach out and I'll usually be like, absolutely, I'd love to, and so I'll find out a little while before, but it's not like set for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You haven't signed your life away.
No,
you can go off and do whatever you want.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you about podcasts.
Yeah.
Do you like doing podcasts?
No.
Yeah. Good.
No, I don't. I don't.
Why are you here? I'm so grateful.
I'm here
going,
because
why?
it's you. Because it's you,
okay.
and also I've heard. I was trying to remember if I had met you at one point, and
help you.
No, I have a story about that,
please.
but I feel like I had, but I don't think I have. I've just heard so much about you from friends who have worked with you, and it's all such lovely things that when they reached out about this podcast, I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I didn't feel like I knew you, but I felt like I just felt like, oh, he's lovely, of course,
Wow.
Because just word around town about you, I'm sure you know, it's just how amazing you are. And so it was
no,
like, oh,
it's true.
yeah.
It's and by the way, this is a podcast trick. You fish for the compliment in the first 20 seconds, and then you can relax. Oh, he likes me. He really likes me.
But I normally don't like doing these, and
Why?
Because, well, how it works is they'll reach out about a podcast, and sometimes I'll be like, oh no, that's not for me. But if the person that if the person's podcast, if I'm a fan of theirs, or if they're interesting to me, I'll be like, yes. And then as the date comes closer, I'll be like, oh my God, why did I agree to do that? Why did I agree to do that?
I'm terrified right up. Literally, I was terrified about you until we sat down. And then it's like, okay, it's all right.
Yeah. And then afterwards, usually I'm like, why did I do that? Why did I do that?
That happens to me if I listen to the podcast.
Oh, I don't.
Which I won't.
Yeah, I don't.
No.
It's funny you mentioned Help Me Help You. Because when people, when I've been asked about like low points in my like acting journey,
Mm-hmm.
The first story is a Help Me Help You story. I was never on it.
Right. I was barely on it. Just to set it up, it was a sitcom, beautiful, beautiful, wonderful, talented writers and cast, and it just didn't quite work. And this was about, 15 years ago.
Did it do like a season?
Maybe a season.
Okay.
Yeah. At
that time, I was several years into pursuing this acting career, and I was really broke and really struggling. And it was one of those where, I didn't book anything for a long, it had to have been like, 7 months since I had, 8 months since I had booked anything.
Right.
And I told myself, I can't take this anymore. This is too hard. And then I got this one audition, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna I'll give it my all. This audition, because the audition came, the role was like pretty right for me. It felt comfortable for me,
right.
And I was like, I'm just gonna put everything into this, and all my hopes and dreams in this one audition. And if it works out, then I'll stay in the game. And if it doesn't, and I had rent due, could not, I did not have the money, and I was like, so there were multiple reasons why this booking, it was very irrational for me to put so much onto this one gig, but it felt right, the role. And at the time, I was in this kind of theater company. This Asian American theater company. We were doing shows around town, and so I was like doing that. I was kind of trying to do everything I could to kind of keep my spirits up and to stay active, and but I was just broke, And then this audition comes. I go in, I work really hard on it, and I felt so good.
And good in the room?
Room, yeah. And I was playing, I was improvising, but I was, felt very comfortable. I knew the script, I had my arc, I just put everything into it, and it paid off. And I got a call back, and I'm like,
oh boy.
Okay. Go into the callback. I kill it. Even better. I do even better than the first time. I feel so loose. I feel so just connected. And if I remember, there were like producers in the room, and the
Network,
director.
probably.
Yeah. It was. I just felt so. This was just for. This was a guest star, maybe a couple days work, but it was a big opportunity for me. I don't think I had booked a guest star at that point. Go into the callback, kill it. And I'm like, this is a sign. This means I was meant to do this. I was meant to do this, because it right when at my breaking point, the right thing came. And and then you start fantasizing. Oh, they're gonna like me so much, they'll bring me back in, and this is gonna turn into a series regular. Get home, call my agent. I've never had an audition as good as that. The agent's like, great. Couple days pass. I'm like, what's going on? This is like, they should be calling me. Why aren't they calling me? You know what? I'll call my agent. I'm like, hey, what's going on with that role? My agent, give me a minute. Let me find out. Calls me back and it's like, you know what? They loved you. They love you. They really, they love you.
Wow.
They love you. It's down to you and one other person.
Oh, that's horrible to hear, though, isn't it?
Yeah. And I shouldn't have asked who the other person is. And I was like, who is this? Who's the other person? And it was this great actor. His name is Eddie Shin. Dear friend. He's in that theater group with me. We're in the theater group together. And I always thought he was so much better than me. And he worked a ton, and he is he's a fantastic actor, someone who really inspired me, But he was my friend, and I was like, oh no. Well, you know what? It's okay because I killed it. And Eddie's great, but no one could have done what I did in that room. Few days pass, still haven't heard anything. We'll find out on Friday. Friday comes. Hey, what's going on? Oh, they haven't made a decision yet. And now I have to wait the weekend. And the whole weekend, I'm like, oh gosh, just more and more anxiety. Monday, nothing. Tuesday, I'm like, okay, what's going on? Call my agent. They're like, oh yeah, they gave it to Eddie. And I remember sitting in my apartment, my studio apartment, and just breaking down, crying. And I had never done that, before for like this, for like an audition, especially just like a 1-day or 2-day guest star audition. It was, and I've had so many heartaches and heartbreaks and, just horrible kind of experiences. But when I think back, that was the hardest. That 2-day guest star and Help Me Help You was the hardest for me because I needed it so bad right at that time, And then also to lose it to a friend who, who
hadn't told you.
No, and I don't think I even told him.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, because I didn't want to like jinx it. I was just like, just leave it.
Yeah,
and it was devastating. It was devastating.
For my part in that,
and I blame
so
you.
Sorry.
And that's why I'm here.
I know. I noticed you put little horns on my. So wait, keep going.
Well, then that was it. And then afterwards, I was like, I'm done. And I think I don't remember exactly what happened, but I probably.
Sometimes when you give up in life is when that door opens where you're really supposed to go through. Because you probably were auditioning towards the end of the season of Help Me Help You, which means you would have been on it and then the whole show got canceled, which may have been even more devastating.
Yeah.
I'm making an excuse.
Yeah,
I'm
you
sorry.
are. That would
no, it didn't fly.
I would have loved, because I would have gotten paid for those couple days, and I would have been able to pay rent.
I'm so sorry. But what was
but
the
it was
time?
great. I mean, in retrospect, I'm so glad I went through that, and I'm so glad I went through multiple versions of that. Never quite as hard for some reason as that day, but and even crazier things happening. But I mean, that was to me at that time particularly, it was a game of perseverance. It was just like, can you do you love this enough to kind of stick with it? And that was like a big challenge for me.
And you better have a passion for the process.
Yeah.
Or else if it's just how do I get ahead, how do I become famous, that would be unbearable.
Oh yeah.
But you can at least go back and go, all right, but this is what I have to do in life.
Yes.
And somehow persevere. But oh my God, it's when we've had kids. Our kids are now in their 40s.
Yeah.
My wife, Mary Steenburgen, and I both had 2 kids. And brought 2 kids together to our relationship.
Yeah.
Anyway, some of them decided to be actors for a while. And it's like you want to be supportive of everything creative.
Yeah.
And we were, but inside you're just dying because you know what a life of rejection it can be.
Yeah.
If you're lucky.
That's right.
If you're lucky. So what was that thing that after total despair? Look, can I just throw in my little story around that?
Please.
Which was, I think I was probably 50 when I did Help Me Help You, and they were wonderful writers, truly wonderful. Because this is not on them. Because I think I don't even know if we completed a season, but let's say it was 1 season and then we got canceled.
Yeah.
And it was for me that period where, I'm no longer able to play that Sam Malone / aging adolescent / thing. I think I was being called to do that, and I was willing to jump in and do it, and it didn't work. It didn't fit me.
Yeah.
And I came out of that and said, all right, I'm not going to do comedy anymore. I'm not going to do TV. People are doing it so much better than me.
Out of Help Me Help You.
Yeah, out of Help Me Help You. And to those who are listening who are involved, truly lots of respect. But for me, it was like, I need to not do this anymore. I'm not funny. There are people doing this kind of thing that are really funny.
This is after
getting canceled.
So many, but this is after what 10, 11 seasons of Cheers, and
right. But you know this, that you can't go repeat what you did last.
For sure.
So it was, yes, you had a great run being that, but that ain't you anymore.
That's right. Yeah.
And I remember calling Jeffrey Katzenberg and saying, we had a relationship because of 3 Men and a Baby.
Yeah.
Put me in anything. Don't pay me, don't bill me, don't do anything small part, but let me start trying to build a movie career again. It was devastating.
Oh, wow.
But go back to you.
That's so crazy to me, especially now, like thinking that because at that point, in my mind, you were already kind of legendary and iconic, and you could probably do anything you wanted to do,
For me to put my story next to your story is full of shit because I was filthy rich at the time. I think I was your landlord, to be honest, and I want to apologize for that.
Yeah. You evicted me. You did.
So what gave you hope next? What allowed you to go, all right, I'm up. I'm gonna make it.
I think it was a few things. It was doing that work in the theater company, because that was a source of validation and a source of just acting and writing and working and see, the rush of being on stage. And I think that kind of, after a period of, I'm not going to pursue this professionally, I'm just going to do this, I think that kind of slowly brought me back to pursuing it professionally. And then I also think it was just this change of mindset, which I think happened around this time, if not even a little before, where I was like, I don't have to be famous or rich even. If I could just eke out a living.
An outlet.
Yeah. If I could even not even eke out a living, but I could work part-time jobs. I could work full-time jobs as long as I could do this afterwards and keep doing it. Then that'll be a good life. Yeah. So I think the coming to terms with the what was most likely, which was that it was going to be not a hobby, but just something that I could always do, but not necessarily like professionally. I was okay with that, Yeah.
But we're going to jump all around because that's my brain. But Shortcomings.
Yeah. Directed.
To me, it's like let me ask you, is this where you would like to live, in this area of directing your own work?
It's definitely, it was such a great experience that it's definitely something I want to keep doing.
Right.
Along with writing, keep writing and kind of doing everything. Yeah. Stuff that I was doing in that theater company.
Right.
And
earlier, if I read this correctly, that you would do stuff in your parents' backyard.
That's right. That's right.
That's
right.
And you studied architecture or were involved with graphic design for a while.
Yeah.
Asian American studies.
Yeah.
At UCLA.
That's right.
All these things that you did. Music is a big part of your life, which to me is, you're a director in the making, because if you have that vast a curiosity in different creative outlets, that to me is somebody I would want to work for as a director. I want someone way smarter than me that knows a lot about everything, or at least that may not fit you in your mind, but it seems like it does.
I never thought of as I was going through doing all these different things, I never thought, that I'd be utilizing all those skills,
right,
for a specific job. But I would say you're right. Like, directing definitely is it's just, there's so much to do, and you're utilizing so many parts of your brain. And those were parts that were, were exercised for me and during different phases of my, my progression. And in that sense, it was very fulfilling, because it definitely felt like, oh gosh, I feel very alive right now because everything's firing.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was great, and I can't wait to do it again.
Had you picked up camera knowledge and language and lighting, or because as an actor, I could not direct my way out of a paper bag if I had to. Although I've been in front of cameras and all of that forever.
Yeah.
Because I don't observe that. Did you have a sense of what cameras, lenses, and all of that?
A little bit. I, during kind of these periods of just struggle and not working that much, and just wanting to keep acting, even though the work wasn't being offered, or even the opportunities to audition weren't coming my way. There was a period where the technology had kind of caught up to me and my friends, and I'd have a friend who had a camera and another friend who had lighting equipment, and so there was a period where we were just making a ton of shorts and web stuff, and there was a thing called Channel 101 out here in LA. It still might be going on, and it was a monthly web series competition. And basically every month you'd screen a pilot. And if the live audience liked it, then you got to make the next episode.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then the next month you screen that episode. If they'd like it, then you get to make the third episode, and it kind of kept going as long as the audience voted for it. And I got involved in that community and started making just a bunch of, writing, directing, shooting with my friends, working on other people's projects. It was like a small TV network.
With a budget that came from somewhere else? No budget.
No budget.
So
outside of what we'd pay for, like wigs or but usually there was a friend with wigs. Usually there was a friend who had they have a nice house. Let's use that person's house. There was always somebody with that resource, and who are also part of the community. So it felt like very much we had the world at our fingertips.
And how long did you have in this competition to shoot your next episode? If you
had a month to write it, cast it, or find locations, shoot it, edit it, and then submit it. and then the next month they screen it.
It's an amazing discipline.
It was incredible. Yeah,
because you could, with the technology, make something that looked like a feature film.
Yeah,
the lighting package was small, and you could.
Some people in that, some people in that community, they were they made like professional quality things. My stuff looked a little more shoddy, but the writing was, and the performing, and like it was. Everyone kind of had their strengths and their, so it was a great community to be a part of, and it was started by Dan Harmon, who created Community and Rick and Morty, and Rob Schrab, and these two guys started this thing, and it was I think it's still going on, but it was such a great thing for me at that time, because it just kept me creative, and it kept me, and I got to direct, and I got to write, and I got to act, and I got to, work with friends and cast and do everything.
When you were not struggling, but when you weren't making money necessarily as an actor, writer, director, were you married at that time, or was that single years?
I was single for a lot of it, and then married during it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
somebody agreed to marry me during that time.
Want to name her?
Her name is Jay. And
who's an actress?
She's an actress, and and at the time was, we were kind of both in the same boat, and experiencing similar things. So we kind of really understood each other on that level. And
how'd you meet?
We met at an audition. Yeah, it was in a waiting room of an audition. We had seen each other. So we had seen each other at a party one night from across a room, type of thing, and our eyes locked. And I thought, oh wow, she is so beautiful. And then a guy walks right up to her, and they walk together. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's fine. And not that I was going to do anything anyways. I mean, that's, but we just kind of momentarily locked eyes. And then a couple days later, I go into an audition for a pilot, and she's sitting there, and it's just her. And in this big empty waiting room. And I go to sign my name, and we find out that I see that we have the same agency, at the time. And so I sit down, and we just start talking, and we're just connecting, like immediately, just laughing.
Is this her story too, by the way, in hindsight? Oh, great. Yes. That's cool.
And we feel so comfortable, and we're talking for like, I don't know, it felt like 30 minutes or so. It was a long wait. And at this point, no one else has come into the waiting room. It's just us two. And then the casting director calls her in, and so she goes into the hallway, goes into the casting, and I'm thinking, oh, she's going to come back, and maybe we could exchange numbers or something, because it felt kind of magical, She does her audition, and I could hear the door open in the hallway. And then I hear her footsteps just like leaving.
Were they sad footsteps?
Well, I would learn later that, yes, she didn't have a great audition. And she says in part because she was talking to me. But I thought she was going to come back, but she didn't. I was like, that's fine. It was nice talking to her, but maybe she has a boyfriend. Maybe it's the guy at the party, probably together, and that's fine. And then a couple days later, I go into another audition, and she's sitting there in the waiting room.
Ooh.
And I'm like, what are the chances of this? And this one, there's other friends there too, and people that I know and other actors, and she's there, and I'm like, this is a sign. So I go up, and we're talking, and again, just connecting. So it's so easy, the conversation, and my birthday was coming up, so I say, hey, would you like to come to my birthday? Well, I'm having a thing, And that year, I decided I was going to have an all-day party. Friends, come whenever you want. I'm going to be drinking from the moment I wake up to when I go to sleep. Come whenever, you know. And I was like, you could come any time of the day. And she's like, oh, yeah, sure. You know, and I'm thinking, oh, she's probably not going to come. A few days later, it's my birthday. I'm drinking. And some friends come over, and then she shows up. And she's alone. And I'm like, oh, my God, she showed up. And she comes over. More friends come over. And she's getting along with all my friends. And you know, she's so fun, you know. And I'm just like, oh my God, she's amazing, you know. I find out she didn't have a boyfriend, that guy at the party wasn't her boyfriend, and I'm like, oh gosh, I gotta ask her out on a date. And as the night goes on, she hangs around, but we had one other friend there. My friend Dave was there, and he would not leave. He just wouldn't leave. And I'm like, I don't think he knows what's going on. And at that point, I was getting real tired, and I was like, guys, I gotta turn in. I've been drinking all day. This is not good. I need to sleep. And Dave says to Jay, I'll walk you to your car. And but before she goes, I'm like, Jay, call me when you get home, so I know you got home safe.
Good.
Yeah,
that was good.
Yeah. And then I was to learn this later, but when they got to, you know, my friend Dave walked her to her car. He was like, he stops for a moment. He was like, oh my God, did I just cock block you? He realized.
He said that to you? Clearly
to
not.
Jay. He said that to Jay because he walked her to her car.
Was this the first time Jay had heard cock block? Because it's still new to me, by the way. But
oh no, I think she got it. She got it because it was very clear what was going on, the dynamics.
What did she say?
I don't remember what she said. I think she kind of laughed it off because she didn't want to assume anything. But then she got home. She called me right away. I'm like, do you want to go on a date with? Or can I take you out on a date? And she's like, yes. And then we go out on a date, and we stay together ever since.
How long ago?
That was about 15 years ago. Yeah.
I don't know where you are on the woo-woo part of life, but I do believe that it's divine intervention. I really do.
Yeah.
There's no reason in the world why my wife, Mary Steenburgen, would even have stopped and looked twice at me if I hadn't chosen to grow up and mature the year before.
Right.
I was such a hot mess.
Right.
You know, and there's no rhyme or reason other than...
How did you two meet?
Well, we'd met several times while we were both married to other people.
Yeah.
She was married to Malcolm McDowell, the actor, and had 2 kids, and I was married and had 2 daughters. And I don't think it was Cheers years, but it was after that. Or maybe it was Cheers years. And she just said, hey, hi, I love your show at a party. And I said, thank you. And then another time we were, where were we? I think it was like the inauguration, Bill Clinton.
Yeah.
And we were both at the same kind of event kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then it was a movie that we both got cast in. And I was at the height of my hot messness, publicly in the news hot mess.
Oh, really?
Had a car accident, you know, that was like kind of one of my wake-up calls.
Yeah.
And during that time, I was working like crazy on myself, going to therapy and this and that.
Yeah.
And this and that. I wanted to stop being a liar. I wanted to, be real. And but I knew we weren't going to get together because I knew that I could fuck up any relationship because it was me always the center of these relationships that didn't work. She was saying to herself, well, she had just broken up with somebody. I guess I'm not, relationship material. Even though I look like I should be,
Yeah.
I'm not. And so we both kind of gave up
Yeah.
at the same time that we met.
Yeah.
And it was speedy in that, within a month of starting to shoot together, I will speak for myself, was madly in love.
Yeah.
And it was like I couldn't wait to be around her. I didn't think about marriage or relation. I just thought, wow, I just have to be around this person who makes me so happy.
Yeah. Well, at that point, you say you were in a hot mess, or you were a hot mess, and then you, was it before you two kind of got together that you felt like, I'm no longer a hot mess? I feel like I
had started to work on myself, so I had stopped being an active hot mess. But I was really looking at it, and the press and the public were catching up. But the work that I was doing was way deeper than any of the press, and it really kind of saved my life. I mean, it was a big moment in my life.
It's so interesting because I was around during that time. I was a big fan of yours. Cheers was one of my all-time favorite shows. I felt like I was very kind of invested in you as a famous person, and like that's one of my guys. And now sitting here and looking back, I don't remember any of that hot mess stuff. I'm sure at the time I did.
Good.
I'm sure at the time I did, but now it's funny how just memory works and how like I associate Ted Danson with all this and that. And all of that stuff is just, my guess is it would be the same for most people. It's one of those things that was probably gave you a lot of anxiety at the time, but nobody remembers.
I wasn't even anxious about public opinion.
Yeah.
Because I had so much genuine work to do on myself, life-changing work that, and I was lucky enough that my mentor who took me through all of this, it was like, if you stop, it's like sobriety. If you stop lying and you start really checking yourself out, that too becomes addictive, taking responsibility for who you are and realizing it's no one else but you. And why is that? All of that stuff.
Had you always been pretty good with kind of public opinion and not really kind of paying it any mind?
I want to be loved. I calmed down as soon as you gave me a compliment. It was like, oh, my breath is coming back in. Mary, I get up. We went to a concert last night, and I said, I have to get up and walk through this huge crowd to go find a men's room and everything. But to her, it's like, no, you don't. You just need to, need to take a stroll and see if anyone recognizes you, so you feel better about yourself. So no, I'm the joke. Every human frailty I dabble in constantly.
Okay. That makes me feel good. It makes me feel better.
Okay, you're in love, but who makes that the first real move? Oh, let's get married. Let's have a life together with you and Jay.
Well, it happened super fast after after that first date. We both just felt so sure. I don't even know if there was any like, this is it. It just like naturally all felt so right and organic, and it wasn't really a conversation, like, are we going to get married? Or it just kind of all felt like this is happening, and this is and we both felt so lucky, like we always felt so lucky, and I think.
Do you celebrate it? We celebrate all the time how unbelievably lucky we are to have found each other.
We it's I think when it's cliche, but it's just like, for us it was truly that, Yeah.
And why there's no real reason why it happened.
Yeah.
Other than the blessing of it happening.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
How old is your daughter?
She's 11.
11.
Yeah, she's 11. I'm just so obsessed with her. Yeah, she's the greatest.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
During those 11 years, were you then making a living and it wasn't such a stressful thing?
I'd say by the time when we had her, I definitely started working more. I wouldn't say that I felt in any way secure.
Right.
But I mean, do you ever feel secure in this career?
No.
Yeah. No. Yeah. So I did feel like, I'm doing well enough to not feel super stressed. We did live in a tiny apartment in Mar Vista. It was this rent-controlled apartment, the same one I lived in when I first met Jay.
Right.
And she moved in. We found out we were gonna have a baby, and we were like, oh, we should get like a bigger place. And I remember we found this house in Valley Village, and I remember having this conversation with Jay. I was like, okay, we can like afford to, put in the down payment. But after that, we probably got a good 3 months.
Yeah.
And then we're probably going to lose the house. Let's really enjoy these 3 months. And then if we're lucky, we'll get 6 months. And if we're real lucky, we'll get a year, maybe 2 years. But the way this business works, let's not be heartbroken when we have to move out and downgrade. Let's just really enjoy this, And so we both kind of got our first little home, not really stressed out about it. It was kind of like, well, who knows what's going to happen. We'll live here and enjoy it, and then if we have to move out, we'll move out, you know. And slowly work just started coming,
See, I think, to get a little woo-woo again, that's how life works. I really do. I mean, and if it's not how life works, it's how I choose to think. Life works, which is find joy in this moment.
That's it.
Know what it is where you want to go, but don't use the discrepancy between where you are now and where you want to go to invalidate yourself. Just experience the joy. For sure. I do think, like, if we were in that house and worried about how are we gonna keep this house, then you generate that. You would have your life reflect back to you. Oh, he likes to worry about not having stuff. Let's give him not stuff. So he can worry.
I mean, I do think, like, one of the benefits of timing with Jay and I was, we were fairly older when we met. And we were...
How old were you?
I was 30, 35, 36, something like that. Married at around 37. And we were broke most of our adult lives, so we knew how to live with like that, you know. And we knew how to do a lot with little, and so that house, when we first, it was a tiny house, but it felt like a castle for us, so it was really something that we, like, oh my gosh, can you believe, even to this day, I talk to, I'll say all the time, I probably said it to Jay earlier today, like, can you believe this? Like, this is crazy. Like,
we do the same thing. I swear to God.
Oh yeah.
And if you put a tape recorder in our bedroom or anywhere in the house, it would be like, oh, they're sickening. They're so nauseatingly sweet and joyful, and
Yeah. But I mean, I really like,
gratitude.
so key.
Yeah.
Just to that's everything, and yeah, and I think us finding each other when we did, uh, and you know, being appreciative of where we're at constantly, no matter where we're at. I really I agree with you. I feel like yeah, and maybe it is woo woo, but it definitely brought us to where we are. I think. Yeah.
Is Jay get to work, or is she having to take care of home life, or does she get
She works. Yeah.
Great.
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 We make it work. The constant juggling, and we have an incredible nanny, Doris, who is she's just so it's a part of the family, and
grandparents around.
Grandparents around.
That's huge.
Yeah. My parents are close. I grew up in LA, so they're close.
Right.
Yeah. So it's my brother is here, and he's crazy about Ruby. So it all works out. Yeah.
We have granddaughters now, and it's like,
oh my God.
You can't describe. It always sounds like, didn't you enjoy your kids? Because the comparison, you just start. First off, grandkids come along when you're going, oh, I'm getting old and a little cranky. And, oh, shoot, whatever. I'm in decline. Oh, a granddaughter. I'm in.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't imagine.
You will.
Yeah.
How wonderful.
Yeah. I feel that way with Ruby. I'm like, oh my, I'm our daughter. I'm like, oh my gosh, like, this is wild, It's so great. Like, what a source of just pure joy and just like the best. It's the best.
And I think it's great for careers in this way. I think that as soon as you have a kid, it's check your ego at the door.
Oh yeah,
this ain't just about you anymore.
Yeah,
and I will go out and do whatever it takes.
Yeah,
and I think that's a big key with or without children, the check your ego at the door.
Yeah. Because
it is just too bumpy a ride. It's all about ego diminishment. Ironically, because actors, are so full of shit and so full of themselves and all of that. But the truth is, you better have,
I mean, I feel like life is all about ego diminishment.
Yes.
I mean, the Jimmy Woo action figure, come on, it's but the kids really having a child really supercharges that ego diminishment for sure.
I think they made your jaw a little stronger than it really is. Does the head bobble if I shake it?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe they didn't put as much effort into that one.
Okay, let's go back even further.
Yeah.
First off, there's something that had popped out for me. So this is the story about me. You can sit back and relax.
Oh, great.
But I noticed that one of the shows that you said that you watched, the sitcoms when you were a kid, was the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Oh, love it.
Me too. And that I grew up without a TV.
Yeah.
And the other thing I saw was you used to read TV Guide cover to cover.
Oh, yeah.
So did I.
Yeah.
I did not have a television growing up. I was a freshman at Stanford when I got my first TV that I found on the street and rehabilitated and put in my room. And the first thing that happened when I turned it on, it happened to be 11 o'clock in the morning, was a rerun of the Dick Van Dyke Show. And he has been my physical comedy hero.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My entire life.
Yeah.
And I just loved that I saw that.
Oh my gosh.
In the notes about you.
I mean, when I was a kid, I would, we didn't have the technology we do now, but I did have this mini tape recorder, like a little cassette tapes, that you put in, and I would lean it up against the TV whenever the Dick Van Dyke Show was on, or I Love Lucy, and those two were my favorites, and I would audio record the episode. And hope that my parents wouldn't walk in and ask me, start talking, or I would just get the audio, and then every night I would just, as I would lay in bed, just listen to these shows.
How old were you when you did that?
I was, I don't know, 9, 10.
What do you think it gave you creatively to not be watching it and having the visual and the audio, but just the audio? I
I
wonder
mean,
what
I
that.
did watch it a ton whenever I could, but I think just the audio, what thrilled me the most was, especially with those shows back then, you could really hear the audience.
Yeah.
You know, you could hear the individual laughs.
Yeah.
And sometimes there'd be like an oddball laughing, you know, a little late. And sometimes, you know, sometimes the jokes would only get like a handful of laughs, you know, and other, you know, only a few, it only connected with a few people, and they wouldn't like sweeten it, you know, it would just, they'd keep it like that. And something about that was so thrilling to me.
And this is my 2 cents, but I bet it also stimulated your imagination because you were visualizing things at the same time.
Yeah.
Which to me is another little box to check on your way to becoming a director.
Yeah.
You know,
I think so. Yeah. And I think I it probably shaped my like sense of timing and my, you know, I mean, it probably did a lot of things that I don't even like know, I'm not even aware of, but just listening is, I do think that there's a power in that.
Did you ever, you probably didn't, but did you at that 9, 10, whatever, early teens think, oh, someday I'm going to be in the business you're in now? Or was this just a source of enjoyment? It didn't mean anything.
Purely source of enjoyment. It wasn't even I couldn't even fantasize about that. It wasn't like, it was so far out of any option for me.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was the first time in school or college or wherever where you went, oh, okay, I could do whatever it is, this.
It was in college at UCLA.
And I don't mean show business. I mean, what was the first thing you might have had a, you know, career in your mind?
Well, for me?
Yeah.
Well, when I was really young, and this connects also to filmmaking, and I loved comic books and graphic novels, and I loved drawing them and making my own. So I would draw pages and pages of my own like comic books, and I would staple them together. Yeah. And I'd have like copies and a bunch of copies of my own like little books, and that was something that I thought I would end up doing. Oh, I'll be a comic book artist or graphic novelist or something like that. Which is
being a director.
Yeah, it's like storyboards.
Really? Storyboarding. Yeah. At how old?
I mean, I was doing that really young. You know, probably 8, 9, 10. Into middle school, high school even. I was doing this. So I have like shelves of these comic books that I drew.
And here you are working for DC and Marvel, and you're a director. Life is astounding.
It's crazy.
It really is.
It's crazy. And I collected all that stuff, you know. It's insane.
Who was in your family? My mother was the acknowledger-in-chief about anything creative.
Yeah.
She hated guns. She would not let me even buy toy guns. But if I carved one out of wood, which I did a lot, she was thrilled.
Oh, wow.
Oh, how beautiful. What a good job. You know, I learned how to play the cello, but could squawk out maybe 2 notes. Oh my God, do it again. You know, she was anything creative. What was in your family that kind of encouragement about creativity?
No one.
I am a self-made creator.
I mean, so my mom was a painter.
All right.
So I grew up with a bunch of like canvases, like leaning against the wall, and there was always like paintings, like at various stages of, you know. So I grew up with that.
And it was serious for her. That's serious.
It was serious enough that she was doing it a lot, but she was also working a full-time job. And
doing what?
She worked at UCLA. Yeah, she worked at UCLA for the student store. She was doing accounting for the student store. And my dad was not creative. He was just worked very hard. But his sister in Korea was a filmmaker. And he had a brother who was a painter. So there was like these little like kind of in my lineage, like there was definitely art, but as far as in the house, my parents, I mean, they encouraged, writing and, whenever I would like write or even draw something, they'd be like, that's great. But it was never like going to be a future, it was always like that. It was the whole doctor, lawyer, the immigrant parent thing, like,
which is very real.
Oh, very real.
I mean, and not wrong.
No.
From their point of view, especially.
At the time, when I was a kid, I was like, gosh, what, I don't want to do any of that stuff,
But to them, it was, this is what we wish we had been able to do.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And they sacrificed a lot to make the journey to the, And
how old were they when they did that, when they immigrated?
Well, it was 1970. I mean, my mom was in her very early 20s. And my dad was later 20s. But my dad had moved to San Francisco before my mom, even meeting my mom. So they both had to have been in their earlier 20s when they first came.
Still resilient enough, I guess, to embrace the odds, against you kind of thing. Because I sometimes think about people in their, when they start to get brittle like me.
Yeah.
Having to do that, having to leave a country and go to another country to make a home is like incredibly brave.
I couldn't do it. I mean, I was born in LA, raised in LA, live in LA, went to UCLA.
In LA.
In LA. I could never do what they did.
Yeah.
And I marvel at it. I marvel at it.
Was it a marvel to you? Probably not as a kid. Or was it?
No.
Were you? No.
No, it was.
Who's aware of their parents?
I mean, if anything, it was like, why can't you be more like my friends' parents? Like who are so fun and let their kids do this and that, right. And back then, especially growing up, it was like it wasn't cool to come from a family like ours,
but I think ours meaning what?
Like an Asian family, and
right.
in the 80s, early 80s, and but as you get older, or as I got older, it's like, oh my God, it's super cool. That's like the coolest thing and the bravest thing to like you say, to make this trek to this new world, for opportunity. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing, because I could never do it.
Why, not why, this sounds, okay. Now I'm walking on my oh-so-white privileged life, ice. But why, I glimpsed, to be honest, at the New Yorker article. And so why Asian American Studies at UCLA? Yeah, why?
I think because I grew up in a very, very, very diverse community, but not with a strong sense of kind of my Asian American identity or my Korean origins, or I kind of grew up in a lot of ways. Not denying it, but definitely not celebrating it, And when I got to college at UCLA, I just found myself kind of immersed in this community, this Asian American community, and it just felt so new and exciting.
More so than growing up in a neighborhood and your parents' friends.
Yeah, I mean, my friends growing up as a kid were just every race. We were, I mean, it was very idyllic in a lot of ways. This LA kind of city, just very multicultural upbringing, But going to college, it was kind of like there were these pockets of kind of Asian American and an Asian American community that I found myself in, and it felt very exciting, and it felt like. I want to learn more about this, this kind of history, and so that led me to the major.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And do you it obviously must have had a huge impact on what you choose to do now while you're in the position of having choice as a director or as an actor?
Yeah.
And how so? I mean, to what degree?
I think for me, it just made me more conscious of the stories that haven't been told. The stories that are new and interesting that I can relate to. I mean, not that I can't relate to. I mean, I could relate to Cheers just as much as anything, but it's just new perspectives, that to me are they're interesting, not just for me, but for everybody. So to be able to contribute those perspectives in any way is exciting. Yeah.
I often thought that we got really messed over in LA by General Motors, who got rid of our streetcars that went everywhere.
Yeah.
And then somebody made a decision, no, cars are the future, so we're going to get rid of all the trolley, because everything was connected.
Right.
You could go to any ethnic grouping in the LA area anytime you wanted, and you could immerse yourself in cultures that are here.
Yeah.
And then that got taken away, and then we became these pockets of others and not like me's. And what a shame.
Do you feel like we're getting back to that with the subway system?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I like to think, maybe all this racial and if you're not like me, I'm going to be angry and want to harm you or what. This whole thing, I'm dancing around how bigoted we seem to have become. But my brain, who's always, I'm always trying to find the positive. Is this kind of the extinction or last gasp?
Yeah.
Because sure, we'll elect a black president, but I'll be goddamned if I'll, let him tell me what to do. It's like, and the whip. Anyway.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know either, but I do feel that, on the ground is a lot different than online, and I feel like on the ground, it's very, it's great.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part, at least in LA, because that's the city I know.
No, we are blessed to live in California, I think.
Yeah.
I also think that, go to the part of the world that is the least like you.
Yeah.
And if you go in and say, this is what I believe, you'll have a fight on your hands.
Yeah.
If you say, hey, I'm hurting, and they will come in their motorboat and pick you up in the flooded area and not ask any questions about you. They will be the most human, caring, nurturing people until you say, this is what I believe.
Yeah. That's right.
I hope.
Yeah. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
There is something good that's happening, though, because I swore I wasn't going to start talking about being white and stupid, but I grew up in Arizona. My father was the director of a museum. Sit back. This will be a moment.
Oh, no.
And anthropologist.
Yeah.
So, there's a real sense of there's a lot that's come before you, and this is not about you, and hopefully will be a lot that comes after you. Yeah. And there was a common humanity. And my best friends, because the museum was partly there to nurture the Hopi, Navajo, Pueblo tribes.
Yeah.
And their arts and their culture. So my best friends growing up were Hopi.
Yeah.
And I would go to their villages on these 3 mesas in Arizona and watch, because they hadn't gone to war with the United States. They were not moved. So their villages had been there 500, 600 years, and their spiritual, religious kachina dances in the plazas, the dirt plazas, had been going on in that plaza for centuries.
Yeah.
And I, with my friend Raymond Hopi, would play and intermingle and then go on Sunday, I would go to the church in Flagstaff, the Episcopal Church. And it was both, I grew up knowing, not intellectually, but just feeling, oh, it's the same thing. There's no difference between going to the Episcopal Church and going to the Kachina dances in the village.
Yeah.
And why did I go there? Oh, okay. So then in my mind, not examining this in any more than this is my friend, my best friend Raymond and his family, and this is what they do, and this is what we do, and da-da-da.
Yeah.
Oh, how wonderful. I celebrated the Hopi in this kind of glorious, aren't they wonderful? And they never went to war, so they have all that. Yeah. No, they were, I don't know, in the early 1900s or even after that. Yeah, after that, probably the 50s or something. They meaning us white folks, came in and said, your children cannot be educated here, and they forcefully took them took them someplace else to educate them. And if they spoke Hopi, they'd get whooped. Yeah. And it's like, oh, this is the part about being white that you don't really have any idea. That's not true about everybody.
Right.
But I am constantly confronting in myself, oh, your good intentions and your good heart aren't enough.
Right.
Truly.
Right.
You need to absorb the whole fabric
picture
here,
Yeah.
And then don't go, these are all the things I wasn't going to say. Then don't go to your friends who you love and work with who are Black, and during Black Lives Matter go, I'm so sorry, so that they would fix it and make it better for you.
That's right. Yeah.
It's wackadoo.
Yeah, I mean.
So Randall,
but it's still
I'm so
good.
sorry.
It's still that's not to devalue good intentions and kindness and those kind of simple things that are on a daily interpersonal level.
And that's the ground that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe not internet.
Yeah. Well,
or news or whatever.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother thing.
It is.
Are you on social media?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't know. It's partly because I don't think I could take the hate part coming my way. Partly because I think it would absorb too much of my day, and I didn't grow up with it, so I'm not good at it.
Yeah. Same. All the same. Yeah, I was on it for a bit, and then during the pandemic, it kind of all of what you just said became crystal clear to me. Yeah.
I find that just the simple act of looking in the mirror for 2 or 3 hours a day suffices for, self-absorption. That's all I need.
Sure, you just stare in the mirror.
Yeah. And you don't age as much, I've discovered. Oh, boy.
No, I think that's, I mean, I don't tell anyone how to live their lives, but I do, whenever people ask, at least, I make it very clear how, especially having been on social media and then being off of it, just how freeing it is to not be on it. Yeah.
It's human nature. It's not the bad guys, but it is human nature that we are drawn to conflict, whether it's because we were sitting around a fire and you had to be on your toes, or you'd get eaten, or you realized, Shakespeare realized, conflict sells. Yeah. It's how you make drama, and it's how you sell news as well. Even your guys' side of the cable news networks depend on scaring you. And better not to be living in fear all the time.
No, and then that conflict plus anonymity. Mixing that in there, it's like, it's just not a place for me.
No.
Yeah.
Randall, if you had a magic wand 5-10 years from now, what are you doing?
A magic wand?
That will create anything without any obstacles. What would you want to be doing in life? Are you going to be directing full time? Or does your brain not think that way. You probably don't.
Yeah. I'd want to I'd want to stay on this path and be wherever I'm supposed to be in 5 years, and as long as it's not like really bad. As long as it's not like really bad, that's where I want to be. I mean, but I guess in an ideal world, kind of a little bit of everything, really just to do things that are fun,
My mother used to wish us children of hers, I wish for you that you will be fully human.
Yeah.
Which I kind of love.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think the amazing thing about a relationship where you are in love and you're aware of how blessed it is I feel like, I understand what it is to have been loved and to be able to love, in that circular thing that happens with love in a relationship. And I feel like, that to me is the most human blessing in the world, and I got to experience that. Makes me,
that's amazing.
Everything else feels a little bit.
Yeah, it goes back to that. Can you believe this? This is all. Yeah. This is so cool. That's great.
Can I ask you? Are you working on writing anything for yourself to direct?
Writing stuff. Sold a few projects that I'm writing with a partner, and possibly to direct, but it's kind of like, well, let's just see if we get there. It's just let's focus on the writing right now. But definitely, like in the back of my head, I'm like, I could possibly direct this. I think from what I learned from the last one, I think I could definitely. I feel ready for the next one, so I'm. It's possible, but I'm open to, like, projects come to me, and if it's the right fit, I'll definitely be open to considering it.
I watched a couple of, as one is wont to do when you do a podcast, a couple of interviews, and one of the questions I had was, how come he's so grounded? And I feel like I don't know if I could write an essay on why you're so grounded, but I feel like I've experienced it right now. I mean, I'm one of those people who tilt way too far forward in life. I'm like Tigger. Hey, and you're not. You seem really thoughtful and grounded. I don't know if it's an act or a defense mechanism, but you really...
I think it goes back to that question about podcasts. Do you like doing them? And I said no, and I think it's because I always come away from them like thinking, oh man, I wish I would have been more entertaining. It's hard for me to, but it's just hard for me to not be myself.
Wow. I was about to breeze over that statement. That's huge.
And I think a part of me is like, I don't like that about myself. I wish because I could definitely I can perform, and I love performing, and I love being funny, but in these kinds of settings, I just feel like, I don't know, I just want to kind of.
But to me, oh my God, that is what. I guess why I really like sitting here talking to you, because we're not at a cocktail party or an interview on a TV show where you have to score in 30 seconds and then move on and feel good about yourself.
Fills me with anxiety. Yeah.
Mary, and I think I've caught it from her. My wife, Mary, clutches my hand. I mean, if she grabs my left hand where the wedding ring is, it's painful when we walk into a party, and she says, "Do not leave me. Do not leave me."
Same with Jay. I'm married with Jay. Yeah.
Small talk terrifies her.
Yeah.
Sit down and have a real conversation.
Yeah.
She loves it.
Oh, me too. Yeah. Yeah. Jay is the public face of our family. She is so good. That she's so charming and fun and funny, and loves being around people, you know. And I love being around people, but not interacting with them. You know?
Maybe directing them.
Yeah.
Move over there.
Yeah, like that. Like sometimes we'll throw a get together at our house, and and my favorite, you know, I love, you know, having all our friends there, and it's so fun. But my favorite thing is, okay, Ruby has to go to bed. I'm gonna put her to bed, and I'll be upstairs with Ruby, and I could hear all the people having fun, and I'm with my daughter, and she's falling asleep, and just sitting there with my kids sleeping and hearing people that's like the best part of the party for me. Yeah.
I kind of identify with that. I really do.
Yeah.
Oh, we threw a wonderful party.
Yeah.
And I'm not in the middle of it sweating bullets.
Yeah. But I don't know how much of it for me is like kind of a self-hate thing. Like, oh, this party's even better because I'm not there.
Yeah.
You know, I'm up here. They don't have to deal with me. They're having a great time.
Dose of self-hate is not bad.
Oh,
Come on.
Yeah. A little dose, I think, is good. Yeah.
I can't thank you enough.
Ted, that was so fun. Thank you. This is one where I'm like, oh, I'm so glad I did that.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And love that compliment within the first 20 seconds that put me at ease. Seriously.
It was all from the heart, man.